Well, I'm Claire. I've been in the UK for 20 years. 20 years on Monday last week. And came to be in Warrington after meeting my ex-husband to be in Birmingham in a Christian rehabilitation centre where you had to refer yourself. You couldn't be referred to anyone. So I met him, hated where I was, saw it as an escape and went. And I wasn't actually drinking when I got out of the rehabilitation centre. I was drinking one or twice for a couple, but not to the extent where you would have considered that I actually had a problem, and then it just got slowly and slowly worse. The more he dabbled in drugs and the more abusive and violent he became, the heavier my drinking became. Until, because of the domestic violence, it took my daughter. And then I just went downhill after that.
So you're in the recovery homes.
Yes.
Wanting to be reunited with your daughter.
Yes.
But separating from your...
Divorcing him.
From your husband. Okay. So what's it been like to be in this type of a group? I don't know if you can say anything about the idea that these are systemic ideas. These are relational ideas we've been looking at. I'm wondering if it's been different for you from anything you've done before.
I've never had sort of relationship counselling, if that makes sense. So looking at a relationship, be it with my daughter or with another person, I actually haven't had any type of one-to-one counselling either. It's always been group counselling, and it's never been on a specific issue. It's never been about it's been about myself, but not about relationships, other than learning not to blame everybody else. So in a relationship in that sense, where you blame anyone else.
Sure.
But rather look at yourself.
What's it been like to think about a building and think about building a recovery? Has that added anything to your view?
It has done, especially that it's my own building.
That was a big factor for you?
That was a big factor, that it's not somebody else's building, because you always look at somebody and go, right, how did they do it?
Right.
And how am I going to emulate what they're doing to get to mine?
Of course, yeah.
Instead of looking at myself and going, how do I need to get from A to B?
Sure.
So you can use it as a starting point, but I don't think you can use it to actually grow yourself. You can only grow yourself so much if you're basing yourself on someone else.
So it's got to be your design.
Got to be me.
Absolutely. So I wonder if you could say something about the inner child sort of work that you've done.
My inner child runs away, slams doors, cries as soon as I get confronted with something that I don't like or scares me. Then instead of thinking about it logically or asking myself why it's upsetting me, I would just slam a door and cry. Generally just run out the room and cry.
So there's a bit of freeze and there's a lot of flight.
A lot of flight. Yeah. Everything is flight though.
Yeah.
As soon as, it's always been the same though, as soon as if they raise their voice,
yes,
I'll run.
Right.
Or I'll cry.
So tell us about the experience you had a week or two ago.
My housemate was yelling at me because I'd separated his washing before putting the washing in the washing machine.
He'd left you to do his washing for him very nicely. So you'd done his washing, but he wasn't happy with how you'd done it.
No. Basically, he opened the door, he knocked on my door and just started, why did you do my washing? And I was like, because you did, but you separated them. And I said, but you always separate your dark colours from your white colours. Right. That's how most people do washing. And you can't wash your dark colours and your white colours together. And he went ballistic that how dare I separate his washing. He left them in one part.
Started shouting. Right.
And I shouldn't have done that. And usually I would have just cried and slammed the door. And as I was actually going to slam the door, I just went, no, well, hang on a second. I haven't done anything wrong. And I said, I separated the washing because you separate washing. Right. You separate darks and whites.
You did the right thing for the washing. Right.
So the adult came through.
So, so there's this extraordinary moment of your child is thinking, I've got to run away because I've done something wrong and I'm being disapproved of and all that stuff, which is years of training. But suddenly your adult starts to think about the situation and quickly realises, hang on a second.
I didn't do it wrong, I did it right.
I haven't done anything wrong. So how different was this for you?
It was actually empowering. It might sound stupid, but because I'm so used to crying and just going, ah! I sat in the room and I was kind of doing the little and I was doing a little...
Look at me, all grown up.
I know, but it's you kind of think at 45 years old you'd be grown up by now, but you're not.
It's just this extraordinary idea that we have a past and we have a sense of corporate self that if we don't learn to recognise the voice of the younger parts and we don't learn to engage the adult in those traumatic and stressful moments, then we just keep doing what we always did. But I just think it's great that you had this experience, and when we have authentic growth, we don't shrink back. We get to keep that. So is there been anything since then that you feel a bit more experienced, or you feel it's added to you?
Yeah, it's added to me because I was given a whole lot of shifts that, which is good for me. I was really happy about it, but because the housing is expensive, if they took me off where I was living and put on the universal credit and changed that with the extra shifts, and I did panic for a wee while, and I did try and ask people, well, how exactly does it work?
Right.
And everyone was giving me different answers, and I went, why am I even asking them? And I just went and asked where I was supposed to ask, where usually I would just take little bits from everywhere else, get what I wanted and go on. But I'd be scared to actually ask people.
But you're recognising a different way forwards, and that seems to just happen now because it's genuine growth. You see, you don't get to give that back. That is just something you keep now, and you'll find that certain processes will just happen automatically differently. Also,
the shifts that he'd given me, I wanted afternoon shifts because of my volunteer work. And he gave me the option, and because he'd given me the option, I just went, and I actually had to come back and go, why am I going? He's asked you a question, you don't have to go, oh no, you do whatever.
Right.
And I went back and I said, I want X, Y, and Z, and I want X, Y, and Z, and I've never asked for X, Y, and Z.
So your child would never have asked for that, but you see your adult will.
Yeah.
And that's the access that we're talking about. That's really great to hear. Thanks for talking.